I'm sure many of you have noticed that things are changing with G4. It used to be the go-to place for video gaming news, and it feels like it's about to, I guess, die. Here with me to talk about that is Aaron Sparrow. How you doing, Aaron?
I'm doing really well. I'm doing a lot better than a lot of employees at G4 today.
Yeah, apparently they end up laying off like 20 to 30 people, which on a company of that size, which I imagine it is very small, was probably quite a big impact. But we still have Frosk out there like talking smack on the customers, I guess not understanding that she's pretty much directly responsible for all these people losing their jobs.
Yeah, her and Adam Sessler's repeated attacks on the customers are directly responsible for these layoffs, for the downturn in G4 views, and yet they keep their jobs while all these other people are getting let go when they are responsible for the destruction of the company. It's insanity.
It is insane, Aaron. Like, whoever thought it would be a good idea to go out there and start attacking your customers and like basically saying they're assholes and thinking they would actually come back? Obviously, we're seeing it kind of with the MCU and what they're doing, where they're having lower and lower returns as they kind of turn off their audience. We've seen it in comic books, which we cover here on the channel. Kelly Sue DeConnick famously, if you don't like it, don't buy it kind of thing. And people are taking them up on their offers.
Yeah, Frosk said that too. She said, if you don't like it, don't watch it. And fans said, okay, well, I don't like it and I'm not going to watch it. And now all these people are being let go. Adam Sessler and Frosk should have to go to everybody's home who's losing their job and apologize to their family, because they put their own ego and their own agenda ahead of what the company's needs were and what their fellow employees' needs were. And it's disgusting. We're seeing it with the MCU. Like you said, we're seeing it in comics, and it's hitting diminishing returns. I've heard that this, you and I talked about it too, in regards to Rings of Power. We've had these discussions where you're going out and you're calling your fan base racist and misogynist. You're labeling them these things because they don't like your product. I've heard it called fan baiting, but I have a different name for it. I think that this marketing should be called fantagonism, and it's not working. It needs to end.
Yeah, the weird thing with the Rings of Power, you go out there and you call everyone racist, but you spend $1 billion. It's a heavy investment. Can you really afford, after spending $1 billion on a product like that, to turn everyone that you want to watch it off to where I won't even hate watch it out? Screw it. If I don't like the product, apparently I can't even watch it to have a feedback about it.
No, you just have to applaud and get excited for next corporate product. It's so bizarre, too, because there's all these people that, have anti-capitalism things in their bios on Twitter, and they're out there shilling for Amazon and fighting the fight for, on how you're a racist if you don't like this corporate product. It's absolute insanity. Like, nothing makes sense anymore.
I really feel like Twitter's really destroyed not only how we communicate. People say things that they would never say to your face because no one wants to get slapped. But it's also emboldened people like Frost to go out there and start communicating the way they are on Twitter, where you go and say something somewhat provocative, maybe dissing your fans, and you get all these likes and retweets, you get that dopamine hit. But then when you go all live on air and you start airing those views about your customers, they're surprised that they actually got what they were saying and decided to walk away. You can't just go out there and crap on people all the time. And I think Twitter really has destroyed everyone's ability to empathize and relate to other people and understand that we all have a job to do here, and it isn't our job to go and destroy the company and put people out of work, right before the holidays, because we wanted to make a big statement and get Twitter applause like in the real world.
You still see Frosk out there, even, this week, going out there and complaining about how she's harassed. It's like, well, you started it. You threw shit over your neighbor's fence, and then you're surprised when it comes flying back. I'm sorry, but you caused that. You went out and you antagonized fans, and now people dislike you, and anything that you go out and say, people are going to take issue with. You started an argument. Don't start none, won't be none.
Literally unprovoked. It's not like somebody sent that message in or whatever. I guess she decided that she needed to make this big socially conscious statement about how gamers are just, I don't know, sexist or misogynist or whatever. Obviously, it ends up blowing up in your face. And the same thing is happening all over entertainment and media. When are actually the big corporations going to realize that maybe Twitter isn't the real world, and listening to the Twitter audience is only going to get you in bad financial straits when people start walking away from the products?
I think we've hit the tipping point. I think it's starting to turn around. I'm seeing things at conventions like, being associated with Comicsgate is no longer necessarily going to get you uninvited from a convention. There's still people that are getting invited out. When I was at Dallas Fan Expo, Geeks and Gamers and all of that group. They had a huge panel out there. Eric July was there. These are people who 2 years ago would have been blacklisted from conventions because Twitter crybabies, would say, well, I'm not going to your show if you have this because the threat is just too real, and then they would have capitulated and they would have caved. And you're starting to see these companies, they're not paying attention anymore. They're going, hey, these guys have a big following, let's bring them out, let's see what they do. And of course they bring out big crowds. You're seeing Gina Carano, who was canceled a few years ago. You're seeing her get invited to shows and she's got huge lines and people are excited to see her. So I think that the tide's starting to turn. I think that companies are starting to realize that, this Twitter audience that's always complaining, they're never going to be satisfied. They don't have any money anyway. That's why they're on Twitter all day, because they don't have jobs, and all that they, have time to do is spread misery. And I think that corporations are finally starting to wake up. So let's hope that ball keeps rolling.
We saw the video this week of Brie Larson going out there. Just a simple question, are you going to play Captain Marvel again? Being totally off-putting, weird, crazy eyes and stuff. I actually had people going in the comments like, she's been harassed for 2 years. It's like, she literally went out there and started antagonizing people 2 years ago. If you don't want people to notice you for all the wrong reasons, you can just be respectful. You can actually go out there and not try to antagonize people and go down this rabbit hole. And now you have a franchise like Captain Marvel, which probably had a ceiling on it, but it's been lowered so much because of the antics of like a Brie Larson that it's almost like a toxic IP at this point. That why even put the movie out? It's probably just going to bomb now just because she's there.
And I don't think that anything that they've added to it is really bringing anything to the equation. Miss Marvel didn't post decent numbers, and putting Monica Rambeau in there. I mean, I like that actress, and of course I like the character of Monica Rambeau, originally Captain Marvel. I like that character, but I'm not interested in seeing that movie. There's nothing about that, and maybe it's not made for me, and maybe that's fine. But I used to be core MCU audience. And they've kind of moved away from that, and they've moved away from things that I'm interested in seeing. I don't have any interest in watching She-Hulk. I don't want to watch a rom-com, from a through a female lens. It's not for me, and that's fine. You can make those things, but then you don't get to complain when your ratings are low or when men don't show up to watch it.
I'm tired of the "it's not for you" thing. Like that entire excuse for why you're not allowed to watch something or you're not allowed to talk about it. I made a video talking about John Kent in Superman Son of Kal-El, and someone's like, maybe you just shouldn't talk about the video. It's clearly they're not writing it for you. It's like, if they're not writing it for me, a dedicated comic book reader who reads Superman and talks about comic books on his channel every single day, who the fuck are they writing it for?
Yeah, who is the audience? Tell me who the audience is then. I would like it if DC told me who the audience is. If they said, hey, this John Kent book isn't for you. This John Kent book is for, young gay guys, that are in the comic book reading audience. Then I'd be like, okay, that makes sense. But then you don't get to complain when your sales are tanking because you
don't put Superman, the label Superman on it. Everyone knows who Superman is. That's an established brand.
I mean, they are kind of like throwing that in your face with that, aren't they? They're like, this is going to be Superman and you're going to accept it. Well, no, fans have the choice. They buy these things with their hard-earned dollars. They get to decide whether or not it's accepted. And you're seeing these heroes get rejected in these new versions, these race and gender swapped and sexuality swapped characters. They're getting rejected left and right. And, there's a reason for that. And the reason is because you're forcing it down our throats. Despite what Tim Sheridan thinks, those characters are not going to get over. It's like, oh, I can't get new characters over, so I have to, alter existing characters. No, you don't. You have to put in the work to get new characters over. And you have to remember that Stan and Jack threw so many characters at the wall. And how many of them stuck? A very small percentage. It's a numbers game. You make good characters, some will catch on, some won't. You know who made a bunch of characters and a bunch of them caught on? Rob Liefeld. Cable and Deadpool. Absolutely huge. Granted, some characters didn't take off as much, like Kane, the Weapon X guy who could shoot his hand off. That guy didn't really amount to anything. But, he threw a lot of stuff at the wall and a couple things stuck.
This weird insistence, like, we need to create something that's accessible to everyone within, like, the MCU. We'll use that. Like, we need to have She-Hulk so people that like Sex and the City will have a place to go watch, like, the MCU. Why is it always, like, male-targeted programs in geek culture that have to like change everything to placate other audiences? Can you imagine if some were sitting around watching Sex and the City, if all of a sudden the main character like flew off to another planet and started beating up aliens and saving people for 5 episodes and finally came back and then kissed Mr. Big? the audience would be like, what is this? This is not supposed to be here. But we're the ones that have to, like, I guess, sit around and just take it every time.
Yeah, we have to be comfortable with our spaces being invaded. It's like the meme that you see where it's like, your space, doesn't, is excluding us. And they're like, okay, then come in. And they're like, okay, I don't like your space. Now change everything about it. And we're like, well, hey, we don't like this space anymore. And they're like, well, maybe you should go create a space of your own. That's exactly what's happening.
And then when you do that, they get mad. They talk crap about you. They make channels dedicated to you and stuff then too.
Yeah. It's a no-win situation. It's ridiculous.
Not surprising, G4 appears to be going under. They're laying people off left and right. But the good news is, I guess, Aaron Sparrow, that Frost still has a job. I guess there's no accountability in all this. You can go out there and destroy an entire YouTube channel that employed multiple people, kind of like what happened with Collider when everyone realized that maybe they weren't being as upfront and honest about what they were reporting there as well. Once people understand who you are and what you're really about, and then they walk away, and then everyone's screwed.
Yeah, it's people don't like shills. That's why YouTube is growing and everything else is shrinking. All these corporate channels, like Nerdist, are falling apart and losing viewers, is because people want honest opinion. Even if they disagree with you, they want to hear your honest opinion. And that's what I do. Like I work for a lot of different companies, but I don't shill anything. If I recommend something, if I say that I think something is good, it is my honest opinion. And you can disagree with me if you want, and that's fine. People have the right to have different tastes. But when you come to me that you are getting my honest opinion, my honest viewpoint, my take on it, and I'm not taking any money from anybody. I'm not, part of the access media where I need to get these little perks so that I can take my Instagram photos and go, look at me, I'm at the premiere. Yeah, I don't need to do any of that. I would rather be honest. I would rather have integrity. I'm not going to sell that out for any product. And I think that's why YouTube succeeds and everything else is going under. And as far as Frost goes, I just remember her giving that rant and everybody cheering her on, going, "You tell him, Frost, tell him, Frost." Yeah, tell them, Frost. Tell them why they lost their jobs. Tell them why they have to go home and they have to say, well, Christmas might not be that great this year because Daddy doesn't have a job anymore. Mommy doesn't have a job anymore. You tell them that, Frost.
If you keep it tuned here, you know that I'm all real, no shill. Everything I say is my honest opinion, and I absolutely appreciate every single one of you here. I do have a video I want you to check out. This is what YouTube thinks based on what you've seen. You should be watching All By channel right now. Definitely check this out if you want some more Thinking Critical right now.